If you're watching this video, you probably don't want to niche down, which I believe I have found the answer. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rod Vester, and if you're like me, you have probably watched a video on how to market yourself, how to promote yourself, how to brand yourself, how to grow on social media, how to grow your business. And if you have watched any of these type of videos, you have heard the word niche. Niche, niche, niche. Now, nothing is wrong with niching, right? It works well for some people. I think it's a good strategy. Some people are only good at one thing and they do that one thing really well, but those who are multifaceted may be interested and really are interested in more than one thing. So if you choose to niche down, even if you're multifaceted, you're going to paint yourself into this small box pretty quickly, right? And if you try to do other topics, things that you're interested in, then people in your audience may not watch those videos because that's not what you do, right? And so it's hard for you to branch out of this niche if you put yourself in this niche really quickly. So if you're watching this video, you probably don't want to niche down, which I believe I have found the answer, because I myself do not necessarily want to niche down either, because I'm interested in other topics. But those topics honestly can fit within one umbrella, even though it's music, it's musical skills, it's music business, it's music entrepreneurship, and kind of all of these things. So let's first get on the same page with terms, okay? So let me define niche. I'm going to define target audience. Then I'm going to talk about the target audience persona, which I think you're going to find really fascinating and something that can really help you. All right, niche. Niche is a specialized segment of the market for a particular kind of product or service. So for example, if you teach piano improvisation, and that's your niche, right? You don't really do anything else other than that. So the question you have to ask yourself is, how much of this can I really do and for how long? Then another question you have to ask yourself, will I get bored with this topic, this one niche topic? Then on the other side, will my audience get bored with this one topic, right? Maybe not. Maybe you can talk about this forever and come up with really interesting things. That is totally fine. So again, niching is not a bad strategy. Again, it works for some people, but let's talk about other things we can do other than niching. So let's talk about target audience, then we'll move on to target audience persona. A target audience refers to the specific group of consumers most likely to want your product or service. So let's say you do a jazz EP. Who is your target audience? Yes, correct. People who like jazz, okay? But there could be some spillover from other audiences, right? Because you may have a person who likes blues, but also listens to jazz. You may have a person who likes classical music, but also listens to jazz. So there could be some spillover, but your audience, your target audience, are going to be those people that love jazz music, and you're going to target to them, okay? Now I know what you're thinking. I want my music to appeal to the world. I want to reach the world. And yes, I get it, and I want you to reach the world as well. But you have to start with that target audience, I believe, and then you begin to grow out of that, okay? Because it's just going to be so hard for you to appeal to everybody, because not everybody is going to like that style of music. But when you find those people who likes that style of music, you start there and then you begin to grow out, okay? So now let's talk about this persona, the target audience persona, the buyer persona, and what is that? All right, so let's take a musician for example. Musicians more than likely do more than one thing, right? We are natural hustlers, right? And honestly, I don't know any musician who does just one thing, right? So for example, musicians perform. Musicians may teach as well, whether that's elementary, middle school, high school, college. Some teach, maybe they don't teach in those settings, but maybe they are a private instructor, okay? Then musicians could be, musicians can be composers, they can be arrangers, they can be arts administrators. So there are many things that musicians can be. Okay, so take yourself for example. You probably do more than one thing as a musician. So when you think about persona, that's what you're thinking about. You're thinking about how can you appeal to this holistic person, right? Instead of just having this niche. What if you take a person, give this person a name, let's call him Seth, all right? So Seth is this persona that we're going to build. We know that Seth is a musician. The chances of Seth being interested in other things as a musician are high, right? Because we know that most musicians are interested in other things and they do other things, okay? So let's say Seth is a violinist. Seth is a violinist, he also teaches students, and Seth performs, right? And so right away, we have three different broad topics that we can create for Seth, right? So Seth is a violinist. So if your area is violin, you have a lot to talk about with violin, right? Seth also teaches, right? So you can talk about teaching things, teaching materials, teaching resources, how to work with elementary school students, how to work with middle school students, how to work with high school students, how to work with college students, whatever your area of expertise is. And what about collaboration? Certainly Seth is performing and collaborating with others. You could talk about how to build better collaborations, how to build partnerships, whatever. So you see where I'm going with this? I mean, you can branch out and not just talk about this one thing, but you're trying to appeal to the whole persona, all right? So what are some other things you should take into consideration when building this persona profile? So as you build your buyer persona or this target audience persona, or Seth as we're calling this persona, think about demographics as well. What is the age group that you're wanting to target? What's the occupation that you're wanting to target? What's the education level? So as you build your buyer persona, consumer persona, target audience persona, whatever you want to call it, your Seth, you need to first of all figure out what problem do you solve, right? Because that's going to be the key role for you to create your Seth, right? So once you figure out what problem you solve, you can then begin to build your ideal persona, okay? So don't forget that step in all of this, because that's going to drive the entire process, all right? So once you figure that out, here are some other steps you want to take in order to build this profile. So of course you need to know who they are and who you're hoping to reach. You also need to know where they are in their career, okay? Because, if Seth is a, beginner musician, that's going to be different than talking to a person who is intermediate or a person who is advanced. So you need to know kind of where your persona is in their career, okay? If you're trying to target maybe college music students, that's a different persona than if you're trying to target someone who has been in the industry for 50 years, okay? So know that balance, because you're going to be talking to two different people, right? So you need to figure out, kind of who you are targeting, all right, in order to build your persona. Of course, you need to know what your persona struggles are, okay? Because you are here to solve a problem, so you need to understand what they're struggling with, right? And the best way to understand what people are struggling with is to look at yourself and to ask yourself, what am I struggling with? What am I struggling with as a musician, as a person, as someone in the industry? What am I struggling with? And maybe there are answers to that already, maybe there's not answers to that, and maybe you have the answers to that. But even if the answers exist, right, maybe you have a different spin on things, right? So don't get caught up in, well, someone is already doing that, or, social media is already saturated. I mean, yes, it is, but you are different and you have something else to offer, right? So don't get caught up on that. So figure out what they are struggling with and then begin to align your problem solutions with that. Okay. So once you find out what they're struggling with and you have built this persona, then you can begin to look at what topics can you cover that are not niche, but a wide range of topics, right? We talked about some of these earlier. So if you know that your persona is a performing musician, there are many topics that you can talk about the performing musician, right? Whether it's how to make multiple streams of income, whether it's about, how to stay healthy, whether it's about how to get along with people who are jerks or difficult people, or how to develop soft skills, how to grow on social media, how to start a YouTube channel. There are so many things just within the performer category that you can talk about, okay? Now, if the persona you are building is a college music student, then you talk about college music student things, which there are a lot of things, how to get a job, how to interview, how to, collaborate in college, how to network in college, better ways to manage your time, better ways to study. I mean, so there are a lot of things. So by focusing on a persona, as you can see, you're able to really not just niche down, but you're able to cover broader topics, which may be most interesting to you and will be interesting to others, right? And as you build this persona, also, as you can see, it's a bigger net that you're casting, right? It's still kind of under the same umbrella of music or whatever your umbrella is, but you're able to tackle these different topics, which I think is super exciting and is what I am most interested in. So I hope you found this helpful. If you found this helpful, please press the like button. That helps the algorithm push this video out to others. Also consider subscribing. This is the best channel for musicians who want to develop skills on and off the instrument. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next week.